Senate Republicans say their budget also includes $1.3 billion more for K-12 education, but it's less than the House version. The Senate budget also expands the EdChoice taxpayer-paid private school voucher program to basically any Ohio family who wants vouchers, but includes means testing for those above 450% of the federal poverty line, which is $150,000 a year for a family of four.
We want to provide parents throughout the entire state the opportunity to decide for themselves where their child should be educated. So like the governor, like the House, we've expanded school choice. Unlike them, we've said that that choice belongs to everyone, but not at the same financial levels.
Senators also included Senate Bill 1, the bill to add the word workforce to the name of the Department of Education and strip power from elected state school board members and give it to the governor, who would appoint a head of the state school board. Senators also included the Higher Education Overhaul Bill, Senate Bill 83, which targets complaints that conservatives have had about what they call indoctrination on university campuses. It would ban most diversity training and faculty strikes and requires expressions of intellectual diversity on a set of specific topics, including electoral politics, marriage, or abortion. When asked why it was included in the budget, Dolan said it demonstrates that senators feel it's important, quote, to make sure that we hold the universities accountable. Students, faculty, and activists opposed to Senate Bill 83 have been protesting for weeks. This week they held what they called a funeral for higher education as a demonstration at the State House. On access to childcare for lower-income Ohioans, Governor Mike DeWine's initial budget expanded eligibility a lot. Senators increased it slightly from where it is now.
Availability for spots is an issue. So we did provide ARPA dollars for building out daycares, and we'll hope to expand probably that as we go forward. But it is having enough spots was a problem right now that we have to address.
Groundwork Ohio advocates for early childhood education programs and quality child care programs and was pushing for changes in the Senate budget.
With nearly 70% of parents identifying that they would work more or go back to work if they had access to childcare. We're concerned that not only the parental workforce is being impacted, but certainly employers. So employers, we know that Ohioans have cut back 800,000 hours. Working parents have cut back, so lost productivity, revenues impacting employers. And most importantly, that we are reminded of with new data, updated kindergarten readiness assessment data, is that our future workforce, our babies are more behind than ever. So 65% of kindergartners are entering the classroom not ready to learn, and that goes up to 79% of low-income kindergartners. So if we're not investing them early, regardless, we are going to pay for that later.
When you talk specifically about low-income Ohioans, the Senate budget cut the expanded eligibility levels for publicly funded child care. How does that affect what's happening here?
Sure. So Governor DeWine had proposed an increase from 142% to 160% of federal poverty level for...
Which is around $42,000 a year for a family of three, I think.
That's right. That's right. It's 142% is still well under $15 an hour, around $15 to $16 an hour for a family of three. So cutting that back from 160% back to 145% leaves this state budget proposal with just a meager 3% increase, which is just nominal in terms of the additional children served. And it's the difference between $15.75, I believe, and $15.99 an hour for a typical family. The governor's proposal was set to serve an additional 15,000. This walks significantly back on that commitment and still leaves Ohio in the lowest among other states in terms of eligibility.
Senate President Matt Huffman has maintained that the Step Up to Quality program, which is the state's rating system for publicly funded child care programs, is too expensive and too bureaucratic. It keeps some child care providers out of the system and therefore contributes to the shortage of child care providers. What happened with Step Up to Quality in this budget in the Senate?
Sure. Well, after a year-long of thoughtful discussion among a legislative study committee, we were heading into this budget already very concerned about the quality system. In House Bill 45 late last year, provisions were added alongside a massive ARPA bill, appropriation bill, that impacted and exempted 60% of all publicly funded programs needing to be in the rating system. The Senate proposed increase now goes back on that agreement just in December, which hasn't really even taken effect yet, and increased that to 80%. So 80% of all publicly funded programs, the state, their proposal, they want the state not to be investing in quality care.
Groundwork Ohio has been bringing the messages that kids who start behind stay behind. That's why early childhood education is important, that mothers need childcare to work and provide for their families, and that investment in young children is important for the workforce now and in the future. Are these messages getting through if you're seeing these kind of cuts?
No. It is very clear, we felt very strongly that the governor had a very thoughtful response that was focused on young children and families. And at this point in the state budget process, we see over $500 million cuts, not including some cuts to pregnant women and children and Medicaid. And the disconnect between the Senate's choices and the needs of the children and families, their constituents, is just so very vast. And so our message, regardless of, we've had professionals, we've had families, we've had the statewide business community, nothing has gotten through that should have resulted in such a kind of dire circumstance at this point in the negotiation.